back for an epic final here. As our first series, the first time around, was a measly 3 games. Seemed like HeroesHearth had control.
Yeah.
Post Clash, though, it's all fireworks for these teams because we're going to game number 5. 2-2, the back and forth continues. Game number 3 was the first time Tempo Storm established control, but Dreadnought, game number 4, HeroesHearth came out swinging.
They really did. It was awesome to be able to see that from them, and I'm curious now as how things are going to move going forward in game number 5. Heroes that I feel like have to be some of the talking points. Abathur, Maiev is another one. Blaze in the offlane priority for Glorung. I feel like that is something that if I am Tempo Storm, I need him to be on one of those more beefy warriors. Or if they're going to go with the offlane, kick it old school. Put him on the Zeratul, things like that to be able to make up for that, because the offlane feels like such a weird niche within this current meta. But it is interesting to see that. And as you said, the back and forth between the series. But I want to bring it back to just the overarching HGC North America. Since the establishment, these are the 2 teams that have always been, you're either number 1 or number 2. Majority of that, Tempo Storm has been the number 1. But as we currently know, again, HeroesHearth has been able to reclaim that spot in the first place slot. And this really would, I mean, lay the landscape here towards who is the number 1 in North America walking into BlizzCon.
Well, let's find out what battleground it's going to be on, because this will be the deciding factor. Sky Temple is going to be the battleground
by HeroesHearth Esports.
That means Tempo Storm wanted first pick. That they gave up first pick so that they could pick they wanted first pick. Excuse me, they wanted first pick, so they gave up the battleground pick. An interesting choice for Tempo Storm as they're trying to mix it up. And I want to kind of put this into the gravity of HGC North America. If HeroesHearth wins, they sit at 9-0. And they're only 5 more matches away from establishing themselves as the number 1, getting the automatic qualifier towards BlizzCon. The likes of Tempo Storm and things beyond that, it now becomes more out of the realm of possibility that you can come back for that spot. If Tempo Storm wins, then basically every other team has a chance to take down Tempo Storm and Team Freedom to maybe climb the ranks. So Tempo Storm would create a shockwave throughout North America if they get this upset.
Yeah, the playoffs look confusing in all the right ways, in a purely complimentary sense, because there is so much kind of back and forth there between the 2 teams. As you said, HeroesHearth, if they remain victor, can really kind of seal the deal and make it very difficult for anybody in North America to challenge their spot on our throne. Medivh and Abathur, Decker taken off the table here now by Tempo Storm. We'll see if the Maiev wants to be paid attention to whatsoever. Hammer might show up on a battleground like this, but not as good as we see on some of the others like Cursed Hall and things of the like.
Well, the Hanzo always has that race potential if it does come to that. Highly unlikely that we see any type of Asmodean. You know, when you said kick it old school, before you said Zeratul, I thought Illidan. I thought that's where you were going with that.
I mean, into an Abathur comp, I would love that. I think Illidan with the early game aggression and what he can provide with that early game aggression against an Abathur composition is really undervalued, but Abathur banned out. Maiev going to be the first pick. Still want to be totally against it, though. We got ourselves a couple of Hankona Illidans at the Eastern Clash.
Unending hatred and all.
Didn't always look that great.
He ran it once. My favorite part about that was he ran it once unsuccessfully, but the second time he ran it, the crowd was chanting for them to pick it. If I chant loud enough, do you think they'll hear me?
Probably not. Hanzo and Muradin are the pickup here. HeroesHearth. Now we're going to have Ishbu moving on to a less popular warrior, even with the Diablo being an option. I feel like this is a bit of a, not so much a call-out, but definitely a pushing of the envelope. Because in the last game, the Johanna, we talked about it, with the Asmo on the back end of the draft, definitely had to be the thought process there. And without any priority onto those, I feel like this is pushing, cattle. Are you going to feel as impactful on something other than the Muradin? But that does leave up the Genji, which is quickly picked up here by Tempo Storm. And they stick here to the Malthael.
Think about what this means, though. This is Maiev Genji as your primary damage dealers. Malthael obviously can help supplement some, but he spends most of his time in the offlane. So it is a matter of getting locked down, swift strikes beyond this, but it's just for HeroesHearth to survive those moments. And it really brings to question, maybe, and it's something that HeroesHearth did at the Western Clash, they brought out an Uther to counter this style of play when they went against the Medivh. Or excuse me, a Maiev.
And that ban on the Karzim, to me, shows that that's still going to be the thought process here. The best it's not the best answer, but the best synergy support with the composition that Tempo Storm has, and considering its Sky Tempo is absolutely Karzim. And you have the next two rotations. Well, all the other supports don't really kind of cater to that, but they aren't bad into it. Actually, Karzim does really well into Maiev. You can pretty much force a Volt, just throw a rotation of punches. Genji, just don't slap the deflect and you're going to be just fine. Malthael actually struggles against that as well. Seven-sided is one of the kill potential tools, not as high value against him because his health pool isn't as big, but he's still a very easy threat. So to me, it shows that that has got to be the thought process. They don't want to deal with the Karzim on their team, so instead batting out the synergy, picking up the Uther for themselves, and they end up going with that rotation.
If you can protect the Hanzo, Thrall and Muradin can protect themselves, especially Muradin, Avatar, but then post 13 can deal with the dive potential. Thrall will welcome you into his world. This is a time where I think Earthquake does have more value for that self-sustain and that control on the dive, especially if we see Warden's Cage. But we might see Containment Disc to take Uther out of this, which is why we see the Blaze taken away. The Blaze gives you that backup bunker option in case something goes crazy. But we've got an Alex Straza and a Johanna here.
Jao. I might even go even a little bit more wild than that here, even though I know I might be digging deep into the rabbit hole. I'm not totally against, I know, still sticking to the Sundering, but you just Divine Storm follow-up. This is going to be a deathball composition in every one of those. If you eat a Sunder and there is any amount of CC behind that, you just die.
Right? Whoa!
What?
So they get the goal. I thought, okay, so Yrel's level 4, giving that 35 armor when you jump on top of them, that seems like one way to really just say nothing, nada.
Yeah.
But Containment Disc, tell me, are you going to contain the Uther or are you going to contain the potential ETC? Johanna has to be very careful when she uses her Condemn. Condemn is one of those things that even if the power slide comes in and you land that mosh pit, Condemn will still go off.
Yeah.
And so that's one of your rare interrupts. Outside of a dragon that could go, you have the tethers and things of that nature. But if you have that full dive composition, it will likely be stage dive. But I'm just saying the potential for mosh pit is there. I am surprised that if they are not going stage dive that it's not a Yrel, but either way, we've got our draft.
I'm surprised it's not a Yrel too, but I will say I think that I don't mind this ETC compared to all the other offlaners, right? I think I go Yrel and then I'd actually put ETC in the second slot purely based on the only way that it feels like Temple can win these team fights is by finding a way to get a easy kill. And ETC is one of the harder targets based on his health pool, has a good crowd control and things like that. It just seems like, again, Yrel with the armor bonus and having pretty much all the other tools that ETC has available, they go with that, but we'll find out.
Game number 5, it's ready. Ooh. You are ready. It's time to go here. HeroesHearth versus Tempo Storm. The conclusion. I mean, we wouldn't have it any other way. We kind of expected this before, but this time we're getting our best of 5 coming at you.
And it's going to start here in the blue, ladies and gentlemen, with Tempo Storm, where we're going to have Glorong on the Malthael. We got Caterpillar repping on the Johanna. Vin will be on the Genji this time as Fan playing Maiev, and Alex Straza played Baiju.
Get your flames ready because it is HeroesHearth here on the right. BBJ, of course, will be on that Uther. Ishbu on the Muradin. McIntyre, he's going to be that off-lane ETC. Arthalon on Thrall, and undefeated still this season. It's going to be Crowan on Hanzo.
One loss in HGC career. Undefeated when looking at this part. Full 5-man collapse. Over Vision here. Fan questioning if he wants to commit with that shadow over the wall. Look for a tether. BBJ is able to sniff that out though. Iron Skin already forced. And it looks like just a trade here over Vision.
The ETC setup, it's going to be very interesting play. You know, we've seen a lot, including yesterday, the stage dive directly into Roots and a Ring of Frost, things of that nature with Simplicity. Nowhere near the same types of setup and opportunities here with this Tempo Storm draft.
I'm going to be concerned if we do see the Earthquake, if there's just, hold on, Arthalon getting tethered back along with the follow-up Condemn. Damage coming through, blind dropped in first blood here for Tempo Storm, able to find themselves a nice kill. They're constantly picking on Arthalon throughout the series. It pays off here in Game 5.
Just nonstop, man. Every time they find Arthalon pushed out in any lane, they know that he's willing to overextend for some of those, and obviously trying to complete your Echo of Elements does require you to get those kills after the lightning hits, and sometimes the best way to do that is to walk up and auto-attack them.
Both Giants being started for both teams pretty much dead even, but look at snap rotation here from Tempo Storm, looking for the Knight advantage. Tempo, if they are going to get for a early cap onto the Knights and sacrifice a lot of the siege capabilities on the bottom half of the battleground, they need a 4-man rotation up towards that top half. and they don't have very good anti-siege because they have such a melee-focused composition. So to be honest here, HeroesHearth Esports, as long as they don't overcommit to either one of the reactions of the Mercenaries, should gain the upper hand going into the first Shrine phase.
The Knights are picked up here as Muradin gets the toss over. But there's a minion in his way, so Stormbolt not landing there. As Johanna recaptures vision on Eye, as now we see that rotation up from the rest of HeroesHearth as they'll look to defend against this Night Camp that you talked about. And the sieging pressure of Tempo Storm behind this, maybe not that significant.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of moments here with their composition. Definitely one of the biggest trade-offs to Tempo Storm's comp, but they can get away with it on a map like Sky Temple. Nice vault there, dodging the power slide coming out from McIntyre. Still nobody to get rid of the Knight. Is Glaring now making the rotation up. Thrall is still over the mid lane, but you see Muradin kind of sharking away on the side. Dragon Queen got to be popped. Tempo Storm want a full man commit to this Night Camp, understanding that there was too little resources committed to the bottom half there for HeroesHearth Esports. They will take the well. Question is, how much more is going in their favor?
This is a masterful push here in the early game. I am surprised because HeroesHearth had focused more on the skirmish than they did on that. And now HeroesHearth, their clock is messed up. And look at the rotation. Cattle instantly going to rotate up, get these first few shots. And we're going to see Ishbu go over, but HeroesHearth, you know Dreadnought, that they wanted to get their night camp out as well. Now they're unable to do so. They lose the fort. This is a 3-minute fort on Sky Temple.
Everything is falling apart according to the plan that HeroesHearth had set going into this game. Because again, they thought that, okay, we take the Giants, we win the advantage there, we'll eventually clear onto the Knights. They didn't expect the 5-man rotation nor the Dragon Queen. And then it put it into a position where they just didn't expect the siege, losing a majority of those shots, or not a majority, but a couple of the shots towards top. And now taking a trade here throughout mid. Tempo Storm approaching Sky Temple with an absolute game plan, and right now, it looks very, very good. By no means, though, is this game, you know, just going to set them structurally ahead of HeroesHearth Esports. In the long run, I would argue, especially, you know, with our kind of expectation, this is going to be a stage dive. The global advantage sits in favor of HeroesHearth Esports, and it wasn't a big enough lead, structurally speaking, because Maiev, Genji, and Malthael are not going to be sieging anytime soon, right? I think if they had a backliner that could keep any amount of pressure up, I'd be a lot more afraid. But for now, I just go tempo, clever plays. HeroesHearth should be comfortable still, though.
HeroesHearth also will have the Hanzo factor when it comes to desperate times. Me call for desperate measures, but they are a little less desperate when Hanzo is able to outrace anything in most rotations on that boss if they can find the opportunity.
He's not going to be able to make it out of there. Power slide. Oh my goodness, he gets the cleanse out from BBJ. Just perfect time. I didn't think BBJ would be able to make the rotation in time, but he might not. Another heal comes out. McIntyre getting tracked down. Tempo find another kill here on Sky Temple. And look at this, just make the smooth transition over. I mean, Jay, we said after Game 4, it felt like that was the first time that one of these teams felt better than the other, but Tempo is making it look like that is the answer still here in Game 5. Invade is here, Ishbu moves up, Fan hits a huge fan of knives there. A lot of damage going on to BBJ, reset available for Vin as they reel it back 4-0 in terms of kills. Tempo Storm has come out swinging and not letting go of this game at any point here.
This has potential to snowball drastically, very quickly, if HeroesHearth, and it might almost be, I don't want to say it's unrecoverable, it's never unrecoverable, but the situation that they've put themselves in is not ideal.
Yeah.
Like, not ideal at all. The fact that they've given up so much. I got a shout out for Glaurung. You know, we questioned the Malthael and whether the Malthael really was the choice. The Die Alone pickup, he was the one that got onto ETC, tried to go back, ended up peeling back into the fight during that fort phase.
Yeah.
And right there, again, it's such a distance that he's making these plays happen. Glaurung, on that ETC focus, yes, it's a team focus, but he's been the one that's capitalizing the most to turn these.
I completely agree, and I don't even think it just came down to the ETC play. If we look at that original siege, we talked about the Dragon Queen and the threat that that provided. Where was Glaurung the whole time? He's sitting in the night camp, literally the night camp shrub on his opponent's side, throwing out shade, just going like, you guys want to try and retreat? Like, I am the one bullying you. He very much was the one dictating the bad positioning on the side of HeroesHearth Esports, though, again, it was a team effort. He is very much that special element here, and this is the first series that, our first game in the entire series that I look at and I go, now I see the Malthael value, you know, coming online there. Other than maybe the very end of Tomb of the Spider Queen trying to respond and him tracking them down, like, big plays there, but this is definitely coming to light in the early game here. And I agree with you. I don't want to, you know, claim it yet, but it feels like Tempo Storm is just so, we're better than you and gaining a big enough advantage structurally and experience-wise that I go, HeroesHearth, where are you going to recover?
I think we're ready to get back into the game, and you mentioned coming to the light. I really wonder if they're regretting not picking the Urel up in that ETC slot. The Global will be there The global's much better when you're playing on even footing or ahead. It does help coming back. But Urel in these early engages would have been far better.
Starting as early as level 4, she has an AoE 35 armor with a 1-second downtime. I mean, yeah, that survivability comparative to a knockback on ETC every, 8 seconds mixed with some of the value out of his passive. Don't think it equates the same, but I feel like there's got to be a thought process, and a lot of it does hinge on that global. It's just the problem at this point is tempo so far ahead structurally. Can you rely on the global? And even if you can, Tempo Storm now 7 seconds out from these shots. We'll be able to pick up 10. It is an interesting position where HeroesHearth can demand some of the shots on bottom, which should force Tempo Storm to make a, kind of feigned rotation to mid up until they get the 10 spike, then collapse. So what I'm saying is HeroesHearth gets a free couple of shots that maybe they wouldn't otherwise.
They're just trying to maintain here. Just kind of curious if we'd get any type of boss rotation, and that's exactly what Tempo Storm is going to do. They realize there's almost no way possible that HeroesHearth can defend this. They have committed actually a 5-man boss attempt. Ishbu's going to sniff it out, not willing to pick up those shots. It looks like they might play more around the boss, starting to pepper down the fort and then get those shots. Sometimes we'll see the shots kind of soften things up, but because that mid fort is still there, if they wait for this boss to get some of the damage done, then of course, then the shots can get more and more value going forward.
Small little clever play as well is BBJ actually, when he got on top of the shrine, let the Sand Guardian use the knockback to increase the escape rate for him as Uther. It's a small trick for anybody if you are that lone Uther whacking away there with the Hammer of Justice. You can get that easy escape. 10 still out of reach here for HeroesHearth, and to be honest, not much to talk about until they end up picking it up because they cannot make anything happen here on this battleground.
ETC is about to be in this fight, and Malthael is not. Tempo Storm has to walk away. They do not complete the full channel Dreadnought.
But they do win so hard structurally at this point, does it matter? But I think if we go back and we say there's a mule on the other side, you go, oh, this is a big problem. But when you know it's permanent structure damage eventually and you're still winning with a full level lead, 0 forts have been taken down. The only fort damage that HeroesHearth Esports has is about 25% when looking at the middle fort. Whereas Tempo, they're about, a breath away from knocking down bottom fort, and middle is sitting below 50% threshold. I think it's very reliable to wait to the 13 spike, look at bottom fort, convert that over to XP, and then just say, HeroesHearth Esports, it looked good because you got shots, but you're still miles behind.
So there's a couple of question marks at the top of our screen. ETC not yet locked in that stage dive. Oh, Divine Shield was finally picked up. You could see some contemplation there. If the opportunity presents itself, and depending on how the next temple phase goes, there's no boss to really contend with. Like here, right? You would have the global to say, hey, maybe we can get on the boss if something happens. You still will likely go into the stage dive at this point. But it is still a potential mosh pit if the opportunity is there. And it's highly unlikely. You'll probably need the stage dive long before you need that mosh pit.
Purely based on the build 1 through 4 makes me go, like, there's no way I see this converting over to mosh, but I'm not going to lie. Now that we see the Earthquake picked up, I don't have faith in Earthquake stage dive being enough counter momentum in any skirmish. It's either somebody's dead before ETC got there, or the ETC gets there and they just walk away from it. Earthquake does not demand enough force over initiation with stage dive on top of it for me to feel like they have the tools, and that's beyond all the other problems considering experience and structural disadvantage that HeroesHearth is dealing with throughout this game.
13 almost here for Tempo Storm as they start to force the issue, walk in on top of this siege camp. They're going to take that away from HeroesHearth. Just wrestling any and all control away from them. And for Tempo Storm with top bottom, Dreadnought, this is the perfect time for them to play around the, hey, we are fine trading out here on these. That is something that definitely favors a team with this substantial of a lead. But if we see ETC move to the top, maybe sit on that and then lock in that stage dive while the 4-man of Tempo Storm comes in, or the 4-man of HeroesHearth comes in against Tempo Storm, maybe there's an option to play around it.
I feel like because Tempo sent Gloring to capture that vision so late, though, they know that bottom is going to be the main focus for a majority of those shots. It's a free amount of information given because of how slow the rotation came out from Tempo Storm.
I think it's important to note, the same way that we saw Murden go on there because he has the Dwarf Toss out, we have Genji, the one with the most mobility to be able to get away. So now they did send Malthael up there, and in stage dive was indeed locked in. But HeroesHearth comes down, they find the temple, and they find nobody at home.
And now, the beauty of Sky Temple is going to continue here.
At
Tempo, yeah, it's going to stack that top night camp with the fact that they already are getting keep siege damage. The keep front wall should be dead by the end of these shots. So now once you stack the night camp on top of it, mixed with the siege opportunities, Jayhow, if they fight and siege with these Knights, this is the fight HeroesHearth have. The best fight they're going to get. You need to Earthquake, Dragon's Arrow, Stage Dive, defend on this top keep, or you are going to fall too far behind to recover.
Ooh, that fort, so close to falling.
Tempo.
Oh, they might have found Arthlon. Arthlon trying to get out of there. Okay. I mean, Tempo Storm still has such a commanding lead in these structures, Dread, for HeroesHearth. I think it's a chance. I mean, 16 talent tier advantage will definitely be in favor of Tempo Storm shortly. The next Temple phase, if it's a solo Temple phase, it might be a disadvantageous fight. The boss, 38 seconds away, 35 seconds away. It is something to consider for the Hanzo composition.
The biggest silver lining that I think HeroesHearth has is that now that we know it's a mid-top, controlling vision and waiting for somebody to make a mistake around vision is a pretty common thing in the later stages of Sky Temple because boss isn't feared, at least not yet here, as we talked about 20 seconds out on that. 16 will be here for Tempo Storm before HeroesHearth, so HeroesHearth cannot rely on contesting that fight.
They're waiting to see if somebody will come up for vision. Once that boss icon shows, they'll at least have to get some vision on it. You have the Hanzo, obviously, that can poke. Not willing to walk into the front, checking the bush with the Storm Bolt there. It's tense.
You can feel it. Giants started now for Tempo, but the 16 is enough for them to want to back out. No stage dive yet. 16 here now for Tempo, unlikely to stage dive in at all. 25 now here from these shots between mid and top, still without the 16. Actually, Tempo is just going to go ahead and start it.
I don't know if that's a fight you want to take.
Yeah, I think at first it started as a, hey, let's just go ahead and use this as a, gap closer. Then it was like, all right, this was maybe going to demand a little bit more attention than we would like. 16 invade.
Well, Crowan should have the agility out, but we've got a fight. There's going to be the double root. Crowan gets the jump over. The Siege Giants released for now. ETC just trying to get 16. We'll move up to that top Temple, start the channel there, while the rest of HeroesHearth hopefully can buy some time. If that channel does complete, hold on a second, Arthlon, he's trying to walk away, unable to get the lockdown just yet. But if that fort falls in the top, that should escalate the race towards 20 while Hanzo deals with that. So HeroesHearth might find an even talent tier fight, but McIntyre not willing to commit with that stage dive because of the amount of crowd control on Tempo Storm. He didn't know who was coming up just yet.
They'll find its same talent tier fight, but they won't find its same structural advantage here. Hold on, Ishbu trying to get the retreat completely, dropping the Avatar now, trying to keep himself alive. No stage dive used just yet as Hanzo still yet to join in the fight. There's a Dragon's Arrow from downtown, lands down to 2. Ends up getting the first kill there as Malthael actually the first to drop. McIntyre comes in with the stage dive. Power slide coming out onto Catalyst. He is getting the heals out from June from above, but the Cleansing Flames are too late. 2 members of Tempo Storm drop in. HeroesHearth Esports been playing Ring Around the Rosie all game long. Now, finally, gain control of this game.
Well, they have that Hanzo, and here it comes. Here's the race. They'll be able to get this down very quickly. They're going to complete the shots in the middle as well. See if they opt to try and move their way towards the top or whether they elect to push. It looks like ETC already making his way to the top. Genji buying time for now. Again, with the mobility, he's going to get a few shots, but look for him to go ahead and swift strike out. If needed, the agility, which isn't needed. And now, Tempo Storm, they're the ones on the back foot. And having that control, Dreadnought, we are back to almost even.
Tempo needs to be very careful, too. Fan just uses gap closer. He has no escape. That's both of them down. They might not know that, though, because they didn't see it. The Pharaoh Spirit actually hits. If anybody had known that, that would have been one dead fan for sure. As he doesn't make it out of there. They end up getting the scatter arrow and get the kill. Now, Crowan is trying to make something happen. Vid going in for the reset, but the Divine Shield stops that from happening. Ishbu tries to get away there. He will survive as we see the Cyber Agility trying to help the escape of Vin. Arthlon now kiting away. Dragon's Arrow only going to land onto 1 here. And HeroesHearth now kiting away with their lives.
Ooh.
My goodness.
And the boss, Dreadnought, the entire time pushing the spot lane. So no keeps down yet. The top one on the side of HeroesHearth. I mean, I don't even know if that has any health left. But the control not there again with the global of ETC still in play. 83 health left on that top right keep.
HeroesHearth here are still behind structurally, but they are now winning enough when it comes to experience to be able to dictate the race towards 20. As you said,
It is solo Temple top. There's no escaping this one.
There is no escaping, but what if I told you only one of these teams has to answer to that. And I think it's going to be, HeroesHearth Esports, because the stack of the Giants, actually, he's not going to go for the double stack down below, and Malthael showing on bottom for a long period of time. I thought Tempo would go for the double invade and stack that with the Shrine, but...
ETC has stage dive in 10 seconds, so they do have somebody to respond, and the Echo Pedal does help with the clear. So they have to be careful on the engage time. Like, those Siege Giants have to be dealt with before this fight, else those Siege Giants will culminate in the bottom to do major chunk of damage to structure. And now we see Tempo Storm already coming in on the flank position. Ishbu starting to walk away. Once those Siege Giants are down, that's when we can get McIntyre into the fight.
And the biggest thing for Tempo Storm is to make sure to not get clumped in those 3 chokes right there. Left, middle, and center. Fan sitting in the middle one right now. That is the easiest place to get split onto a stage dive over this top shrine. So it's actually trying to funnel HeroesHearth into that awkward position as best they can without getting isolated themselves. As you see them trying to make that happen right now, Cattle and Gloron kind of flanking around there as Crowan gaining enough room with those scatter arrows to make it not too big of a problem. The wave cleared out in favor of Tempo. BBJ moves up. They know they're getting a little bit desperate here. No stage dive, at least not yet. Now HeroesHearth, as they are funneling back through that, they need to be careful because you know Tempo, again, if they kind of mess up through one of those chokes, there's going to be a stage dive initiation. Fan doesn't pull the trigger, but they end up burning the Blessed Shield. They go in, a lot of damage onto Arthalon with the last rites, but there's the Divine Shield.
And now we're going to see the fireworks as BBJ, it's okay if he dies, he's the Uther. He can provide those healings out. Did not get the D-Shield out, however, and now the Dragon Queen is back there. June making plays, hopping into the backside, but the power slide is going to lock down June. The Dragon will fall, but how much more is going to make it through here?
Bao's getting so much damage done there with the passive spread onto 4 members. They're constantly using the die alone. Arthalon now trying to be the last to escape. HeroesHearth losing of those 2 members, though, with still about 33% shots remaining towards that top altar. That surely is going to secure the middle keep in favor of Tempo Storm here, and now leaving the win condition of Boss.
Well, you have to excuse me, the D-Shield was used there. It's just when he died, it still showed it on cooldown. He did not get 20. Mind you, that 1 kill did give them 20 in the middle of that fight, or at least near there. Had he gotten 20 and BBJ went down, would have had that redemption, would have come back into this. So things could have been a lot worse, but Tempo Storm initiating when they did, right before 20, they got the trade that they wanted, the 2-for-1 trade, but this game is by no means over.
And it's kind of awkward here for Tempo Storm. Their mercenary situation is about as bad as it could get, based on the fact that in 20 seconds you're going to have those bottom Giants show up. They're about 40 seconds out from that top night camp here, and that night camp matches the cooldown of Boss, so they can't have the split push catapult pressure that you normally want when a boss actually spawns. And because there's 20 seconds between the Giants and the boss itself, it likely is going to demand an easy answer here from HeroesHearth answer to the bottom half of the battleground. It's pretty much going, HeroesHearth, would you like to answer the boss perfectly? Because here you go. And then, hey, by the way, we're going to have no split push pressure either. That's something that they can't avoid, but it is one of those as you get to this stage of the game. Very much wish you, again, had a little bit different cooldown timers there.
All eyes will be on the boss, and you can already see the rotation up to control that vision, keeping ETC honest, not allowing him to push that lane out. It'll force him to defend much further back, but they do have that. You're going to see the vision go over. You can't commit too much to that top.
They can't because anything. Hanzo will just demand the race whatsoever. And this is what I was saying. It's a little awkward when looking at their heroics or when looking at their mercenaries, because you know that they're like, oh, eventually we could get that split pressure. Hold on, though. ETC is actually getting enough in the 1 versus 1 with
he's
Vin.
in trouble. He's in trouble.
He's in a lot of trouble. He actually bolted right there. McIntyre. He's fine. Makes it out here. Giants still pressuring on bottom. Got to be a problem that HeroesHearth eventually answers to. Now we've got it 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, till we get the next 2 shrines.
Well, Dread, Tempo is in control here. They have the structures down, and they could easily trade out here. HeroesHearth is going to have to be clever in their rotations. They're going to have to force something, the uncomfortable. There's the Knight, so now all of a sudden that top lane, that timer that you already felt, well, we're going to see that neutralized somewhat, but the catapults will inevitably allow that to snowball much greater in that top lane. So for HeroesHearth, they can't afford to give up these shots as Temple's now active.
Malthael starts the channel down below. We'll pick up those shots. Eventually, ETC will be able to push the wave into that, but he's got a big wave to deal with, and Echo Pedal is not going to get that clear very fast. So for now, HeroesHearth is showing that they're going to stage dive throughout mid, and they need to be able to do it very, very fast. Otherwise, they're going to lose that keep. ETC made the movement over, so now they know, and Genji is actually going to match that. So expect Tempo Storm to retreat here up above and look for that split. Vin now making his way back towards mid. Look at all the damage going on to Fan. The Volt, along with the stage dive, they're going in. They burn the Dragon's Arrow. Fan goes down.
He goes down for now. Malthael starting to get core damage on, but the Cleansing Flames is out, keeping multiple of the rest of the members alive. That temple almost done on that channel, but this is boss time. HeroesHearth, they might just have to go for the gusto here, Dreadnought. It is going to be all about getting this boss. I don't think they can afford to wait any longer. See if Tempo Storm has any type of counterplay as they find McIntyre here in the mid. There's nobody defending mid to stop these shots, and that core is already lost health.
3 catapults are actually building on top with that night camp that we were talking about before. HeroesHearth Esports has to send somebody back. 68%, 65, it is counting. Vin is going to make his way to the core here. Tempo Storm down 2 members, but they're the one who won to end this game. 30 and counting, ladies and gentlemen. The Winions have done it here. Tempo Storm win this series over HeroesHearth Esports and rip back the throne of North America.
Woo! Now that's what I call an ending. Tempo Storm shows that there is still life left in them yet. I mean, that was a performance worthy of saying we are still a #1 team within this region. I don't think we can categorize them as that just yet because of the map score, but still, evening that up.
Whoever's won that battle has won the region. That's how I look at it so far. And guess what? Tempo came out on top here.
They did it at the time where they're like, look, all right, we don't need map choice. They ended up getting first pick that time. Just that game could have gone either way. And, you know, the early game control, HeroesHearth, they fought back like crazy. They found their way back in. But that double temple phase, they went for that boss. But my goodness, the minute that was identified by Tempo Storm, they're like, okay, we re-engage mid. I mentioned that top camp. You can pick up the camps even, but catapults at that point, there were already 2 catapults mounted in that top lane. That was going to snowball like crazy. It did. That timer ticked very fast against HeroesHearth.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and revisit that because that was actually ridiculous. The back end of, I mean, everything kind of happening here at the end stages. But yeah, as you said, is the 3 catapults on top. That is the overall win condition. And the one thing I wanted to highlight is Glaurung consuming those shots. The biggest thing for ETC here on mid is just buying enough time for the shielding on the core to build up. That is their biggest worry, right? So he's trying to make sure that that shielding restores itself, you know, buy as much breathing room as you possibly can. The problem is, again, those minions on top, nobody was considering how much damage they would do.
It was just way too much. Glaurung on his rotation up saw that they were on the boss. Glaurung is willing to concede death because, by the way, he cheated it with his level 20. He's like, even if I die, I buy time. And that was enough. And, you know, I don't know who would have been able to get back there in time. That was 4 catapults on the core. They were actually so clumped on the mini-map, it was hard to see, like, oh, wait a minute, that goes from 3 to 4 real quick.
I'm going to bring this up pure, not because this is like feedback on like, oh, I would have liked to see this from HeroesHearth, but it's actually one of the few cases in a tense game that I can highlight it. And it's a moment where capturing your mercenaries actually hurt. HeroesHearth capturing that top night camp allowed to stall it. That's a 4 cata. That's 100% lethal at that point in time, right? If you don't capture the night camp, you don't see the stall out in the middle section of that lane, and you actually only get 2 to 3 catapults and possibly not lethal at that point in time. Granted, Vin going over, there's other variables at hand, but there are situations in the late game where actually capturing a mercenary could set yourself back.
Dreadnought right over your shoulder. There's a very relieved Cattlepillar as I saw a couple of deep breaths from the man. Cattle man. Wild, wild series and a wild ending to this game. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, for you guys, I can see the deep breaths obviously coming in as we get started here. But, you know, you guys had a very weird first series against HeroesHearth in Phase 2 where it was a 3-0 and things didn't seem like the traditional Tempo Storm that we were used to. But you came into this series firing on all cylinders. It seems like you guys had the majority of the control throughout the series outside of that Tomb game. Does it feel like this is Tempo Storm getting their composure back?
Definitely, 100%. We feel a lot better. I think our biggest thing that we were struggling with was we just couldn't quite keep our composure and we couldn't play patient enough. But today we managed to actually tone it down, take it back a step, not overpush our advantages, and then slowly win the game.
There's so much that we highlight in your play, especially on the Murd, and it seems like you're able to just dominate games when you're on that Murd, and it seems like you had control. Do you feel a responsibility? Obviously, you can play whatever role. You have several playmakers on your team, but when you're on that Murd, and do you feel a sense of responsibility of like, guys, let's go, I can do this? Like, do you feel that at all?
I would say not really. The only thing you really feel on Murden is either your stun connects and you did good, or your stun misses and you did real bad. So when I miss stuns, I feel real bad, but just kind of have to make sure I hit the next one.
Well, there's obviously a lot to talk about, but I know Dreadnought has a few questions for you, so I'm going to send you over to him.
I do. The biggest thing I got to ask you, Cattle, and congratulations over that very tense series, is about the Malthael Valley for you guys. You have been one of the more curious teams when it comes to Glarong into the off lane, onto the Malthael, but it is drastically falling off in pretty much every region except for China. So what is it that kind of keeps it here in your guys' arsenal?
I think recently a lot of teams have been relying on like solo lane power picks to not lose lane so that they can just force 4v5s and never really have to actually take team fights. But Malthael basically beats everyone, and it's really hard for like even the best solo laners in NA to stand up to Glau's Malthael, and he just kind of just bullies them enough that we can do our own thing and play around that. And yeah, we had a lot of times where he's just double soaking or like triple soaking basically, and yeah, that rotation power just makes the hero really strong right now.
And then another thing I wanted to talk about is just bringing it back, because I feel like Sky Temple, at least for me and my experience when I was a player, when you get in those very late game, very tense moments, communication-wise, it can probably be one of the most panicked kind of moments here. So I just wonder, comms-wise, especially for Vin, as you see the death coming in, Malthael ends up dying, getting the buyback going in, and he's going to switch right to core. Like, how crazy were things there in the last couple seconds of Sky?
Yeah, I mean that was like the only real slip up of the game. I'd say we had like a slight miscommunication there because we didn't actually want to take that fight, and then yeah, we ended up losing one, but we still got a good enough trade, and since we had 3 keeps down, it was fine. But yeah, Sky is, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Sky Temple just because it puts you in those situations and they're just brutal and they're just so tense, and yeah, I'm glad our minions decided to kill the core for us.
Did you kind of have like that fear, I guess, in the middle of the game, specifically around the first moment where you guys looked like you were mortal at all in that game with the stage dive coming in, getting caught around that kind of middle temple? Did you go like, oh no, you finally have like kind of lost that masterful control, or did you again feel a bit more confident and just like, no, we're good, we can keep controlled here? Because it seems like that's something you guys were worried about.
I think we still felt fine. Like we know that Heroes Hearth is they're a very very passive team, and their strength as a team is punishing like not being patient enough, which yeah, has been our problem in the past and basically why we got rolled the last series. But this time, like we actually managed to not overextend, and since they don't ever really pressure like try to win, they wait for you to make mistakes. As long as you don't make mistakes,
I think
and just close out the game.
Really good point that you just bring up there, and something that we were trying to highlight a little bit there is it feels like very much Heroes Hearth has kind of gone to that, not trying to be able to force the hand there. So congratulations though, again on the series today. It was an amazing play.
Cattle,
Thank you.
You guys, obviously, this is very similar to how Phase 1 played out, where you all were the undefeated team. Heroes Hearth came in. They got the upset in Part 2 of Phase 1. It wasn't enough to necessarily take away the #1 spot because of that map score. It's still early, obviously, in Part 2. Who are you looking out there for help, maybe? Obviously, you have to win your own games, but you shook up the potential of the top of North America.
Yeah, I think highest priority is that we literally just can't drop a game ever. And other than that, I'm definitely looking at the Octalysis wildcard draft mode here to take a few games off Heroes Hearth.
Well, obviously, you guys have the double weekend next weekend, Team Freedom and LFM, I believe. So you've got that going for you. But obviously, the Octalysis, it's very important for you not to drop a game. Going into the double weekend, we know LFM sitting more towards the bottom, but Team Freedom, a team that looked very strong at the Clash. What is preparation going to be like to make sure that you don't just win the series, but you also try and 3-0 basically everybody from here on out?
I think right now it's just keep doing what we were doing these last couple of weeks. After the Clash, we obviously struggled. Something wasn't going right. We kind of restructured how we were practicing. We changed our drafts up, kind of went back to more of a standardized tempo Storm rather than trying to be the slightly more flexible approach that we were doing. And it's obviously working, so we're just going to keep on practicing that and just, make sure we get that down.
The transition back to what worked. It worked here for you guys today, reclaiming, at least in our eyes, the number on Heroes Hearth records. Obviously, will be determined at the end of the season, but congrats today. And the floor is yours, my friend, for some shout-outs.
Shout-outs to my team. Great job today. Good job, Vin. Getting better every series. He'll be more than just a Psalm with mustache clone soon. And shout out to all our sponsors, Tempo Storm, of course, and then Red Bull, Twitch, NVIDIA, Overwolf, Kick-Ass Beef Jerky. I know that my entire team's basically just eating beef jerky nowadays and not actually eating food. And shout outs to Reynad's new game, or the Bazaar. It's coming out eventually. And shout outs to my stream, my little herd. Shout out to you guys, and shout out to solo support Abathur.
Congrats, Cattle.
Thanks.
Shout outs to solo support Abathur.
See, I was more appreciative of the fact that, you know, the people that are fans of cattle in his stream, I didn't know that they're called the herd. And I think that is very kind and fitting that, you know, here's the herd of the cattle.
We know what yours is.
Yeah, we don't say.
It's a club.
Yeah.
It's a club. We'll leave it at that. Let's see what action we got going on tomorrow, because we're not done yet. We still got another day of HGC. We're obviously going to kick things off in Europe as Team Liquid will take on Granite Gaming. Monkey Menagerie, well, we know they're up to a lot. They're going to be facing off against Leftovers before we find our way here in North America.
And in North America, ladies and gentlemen, it is Team Freedom up against LFM. Going to be nice to see the highest performing North American team here for the first time back at HGC North America, Phase 2, Part 2. And then we end the day there with Simplicity up against No Tomorrow.
Obviously, that later into the day will be trying to fight and keep their way out of that Crucible range, but more importantly, trying to find their way into the playoff territory where we know Simplicity would like to be.
Yeah, we heard that from them yesterday. You know, Hosey was pretty much along the lines of like, this is a must win. If we're going to avoid the Crucible, which is absolutely the mentality that this roster is going to have, and then, you know, with No Tomorrow and the performance that we ended up getting from them today, some of the kind of mix-ups that they've had, it will be interesting to see what happens. It feels like the new blood with things mixed up versus, again, the kind of old classic Simplicity that we've seen to have over the past couple of years.
Old and classic. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. It was a long day, and we were glad you were along for the ride for this epic final series that we had. But we will see you tomorrow for more HGC North American action. See you in the Nexus.
Popped here, Jay. How it's going to be popped very, very early. How far out is he able to make it as the body blocks are going to come in here? Last right's yet to be thrown down. It ends up coming through, but the damage is not going to be enough to get the kill. HeroesHearth Esports actually keep themselves alive. I say that, but Arthlon, he's the penetrating round, and he's first to drop.
Then comes with the snipe, but we're going to see Malthel and Fan now fall. Crowan starting to pop off. He does have that glass cannon and the resets available for him. Hyperion is out. They might try and force here. There's going to be the jump in. There's going to be the stun. He has the rewind. There's the double stun.
The last
Rights is going to execute Crowan. So the perfect play by Caterpillar and team as they go forward. We have 80% on the other side, though, as the shields have fallen. The core starting to fall on the side of Tempo Storm. The Genji backdoor looks like it's been enough as we get the clone, we get the backdoor.
Into that as well, so that is a huge loss, the fact that he specs into that and they don't have that for this next team fight. Catapults are mounting on the top lane, therefore Tempo Storm. Stormbolt's going to land onto the back line as they move in to this boss yet to be taken. The Warden's Cage drops. Arthlon is not there. 5 seconds on the Gust, ladies and gentlemen. 3, Taunt comes through, hammer thrown down by McIntyre. The boss
Here comes the BFG.
Goes over to
the BFG from downtown.
HeroesHearth Esports get the boss. They throw it from downtown.
Right as well.
Yeah, we're about to see Crowan have to be able to deal with that. Vin actually eating the BFG. Ishbu lands a taunt. The last rights goes down, and BBJ survives there into the fray, throwing him out. Crowan trying to cut away, but the Fan of Knives coming out from Fan is going to be enough to get that first kill. Ishbu is just stalling out what seems like the inevitable there with BBJ because Tempo Storm find the 3 kills. Here for HeroesHearth Esports, 28 for Tempo Storm. Jaglaron goes in, lands the 2-man jet propulsion along with the scroll of ceiling. Whiteman ends up burning the heroic, and McIntyre trying to keep himself alive as the lightning breath ends up going down. Bunker drop. Ishbu, McIntyre both end up dying here as Tempo Storm are going to be able to get this.
See if they can get an isolation kill as McIntyre goes in. The boss, again, this is a very early boss here, Dreadnought.
And he burned Tranquility as well. They see the APOC along with that, oh my goodness, that salvo locking down 4 members. The damage coming in onto Fan, he's going to be the first to drop. Shielding on the core has not been taken out quite yet, but the boss is still alive. BBJ trying to get some damage out. Glaron kiting, keeping everybody off the core as long as he possibly can. Condemn comes in along with the blinding light. Glaron keeps himself up. Boss taken off the table. Tempo Storm hold on, 84%. Structural advantage here. Hold on, Ishbu trying to get the retreat completely, dropping the Avatar now, trying to keep himself alive. No stage dive used just yet as Hanzo still yet to join in the fight. There's a Dragon's Arrow from downtown, lands down to 2. Ends up getting the first kill there as Malthel actually the first to drop. McIntyre comes in with the stage dive. Power slide coming out onto Catalyst. He is getting the heals out from June from above, but the cleansing flames are too late. 2 members of Tempo Storm drop. Fan Doesn't pull the trigger, but they end up burning the Blessed Shield. They go in, a lot of damage onto Arthalon with the last rites, but there's the Divine Shield.
And now we're going to see the fireworks as BBJ. It's okay if he dies. He's the Uther. He can provide those healings out. Did not get the D-Shield out, however. And now the Dragon Queen is back there. June making plays, hopping into the backside. But the power slide is going to lock down June. The Dragon will fall, but how much more is going to make it through here?
I was getting so much damage done there with the passive spread.
Done on that channel, but this is boss time. HeroesHearth, they might just have to go for the gusto here, Dreadnought. It is going to be all about getting this boss. I don't think they can afford to wait any longer. See if Tempo Storm has any type of counterplay as they find McIntyre here in the mid. There's nobody defending mid to stop these shots in that core.
Three catapults are actually building on top with that night camp that we were talking about before. HeroesHearth Esports has to send somebody back. 68%, 65, it ain't counting. Vin is going to make his way to the core here. Tempo Storm down 2 members, but they're the one who won to end this game. 30 and counting, ladies and gentlemen. The Winions have done it here.